What's up? All right, today we're gonna look at the peace plan. David Hogg's fucking abortion of an idea that's gonna solve gun violence. Their plan. Every day in America, more than 100 lives are taken by the deadly epidemic of gun violence. Among young people, gun violence has become a top cause of death, second only to drug overdoses. It has many root causes, including hate, poverty, and despair. It's deeply intersectional issue. It's a deeply intersectional issue, inextricably bound with our long journey for racial justice, economic justice, immigrant rights, and the rights of our LGBTQ allies. What does gun violence have to do with any of those things? Gun violence has to do with some fucking lunatic nut job with a gun, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot a fucking Walmart up because it'll give me 15 minutes of fame, because the media will plaster my face all over the fucking TV. I seriously don't get why the gun violence thing has anything to do with racial justice, economic justice, immigrant rights, and the rights of LGBTQ allies. And it's amplified by the social belief that a gun can solve our problems. Listen, only two people should ever get shot in a mass shooting. The guy that shoots the first dude, and then everyone else turns and fucking blows that man away. You know? So what happens in your neighborhood, like if someone breaks in your neighbor's house, right? What are you gonna do? Like I just don't understand why you're willing to take away gun rights from people who've never done shit just because criminals are breaking the law. The next president must act with a fierce urgency to call this crisis what it is, a national public health emergency. They must acknowledge that the level of gun violence in the U.S. is unprecedented for a developed nation, and only bold new solutions can move the needle on the rates of gun injuries and deaths. They must recognize that gun violence has many faces in our... God damn it, this is so fucking stupid. From rural suicides to intimate partner violence to urban youth violence to violence driven by white supremacist ideologies. Taking away guns isn't going to stop suicides. Taking away guns isn't going to stop some fucking jackhole from beating the shit out of his wife. We believe in change. 6 bold steps that the next presidential administration and Congress must take to address this national gun epidemic. Fucking bleh. All right, so they have a peace plan, right? So they're gonna change the standards of gun ownership, half the rate of crime deaths in 10 years, accountability for the gun lobby and industry, name a director of gun violence prevention, generate a community-based solutions, and empower the next generation. What is all this shit? Bam. Number 1, we're going to change the standards of gun ownership. Advocate and pass legislation to raise the national standard for gun ownership, a national licensing and registration system that promotes responsible gun ownership, a ban on assault weapons, high-capacity magazines, and other weapons of war. Policies to disarm gun owners who pose a risk to themselves or others, a national gun buyback program to reduce the estimated fucking couple million firearms in circulation by at least 30%. Like, this shit is just worded, and it just makes me want to vomit. They want to know where every single firearm is. That sounds like a good idea, right?
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
How does knowing where every gun promote responsible gun ownership and other weapons of war? All right, they want to take away weapons of war. Now, I don't know what the fuck a weapon of war is. I'm pretty sure you can get a pink AR-15 or a pink whatever. You can get anything in pink. Does that immediately make it not a weapon of war? But if it's black, it's scary. It's got to be a weapon of war, right? A national gun buyback program. So essentially, they want all your guns. They just, well, now with Beto and fucking whoever else is calling for just a total recall of all fucking guns. It's not a buyback, it's a confiscation. They didn't sell you them. It's not like the gun shop down the street is like, hey dude, that gun has a tendency to explode when you shoot it, you know? Then, you know, the shop could be like, hey, I want to buy that gun back from you. But the government didn't sell you the gun, so they can't buy it back. They can buy it from you, right? But that's retarded. Number 2, they're going to halve the rate of gun deaths in 10 years. Mobilize an urgent and comprehensive federal response. Declare a national emergency around gun violence and announce an audacious goal to reduce gun injuries and deaths by 50% in 10 years, thereby saving up to 200,000 American lives. How many lives do guns save a year from intruders or whatnot? How many lives does the good guy with a gun save? So they're going to declare a national emergency around gun violence, like the national emergency on poverty and drugs and, you know, the prohibition, shit like that, you know? Yeah, if you take away guns from everybody, of course you're going to decrease the deaths. I'm sure if you made fucking owning a pool illegal, drownings would go down. It's the same fucking shit.
Well, they start throwing out those stats. Yeah, actually, you increase your chances of getting shot by 80% the second you get a gun in the house. Really? What, because I'm going to load it and shower with it? Like, The fuck? I know it's dangerous. You get a pool in your backyard, you immediately increase your odds of drowning in your backyard, right? You couldn't do that before. Now you step on a rake and you go.
Number 3, accountability for the gun lobby and industry. Hold the gun lobby and industry accountable for decades of illegal behavior, misguided policies intended to shield only themselves. Re-examine the District of Columbia versus Heller interpretation of the Second Amendment. Initiate both FEC and IRS investigations into the NRA and fully repeal the Protection and Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. I'm depressed. I didn't get that. Shit. One take. We're only doing one take. We're doing it live. They want to re-examine the District of Columbia versus Heller interpretation of the Second Amendment. All right, so the Heller decision pretty much is basically your individual right to own a gun versus a militia. And it says DC law that effectively banned possession of handguns by non-law enforcement officials and required lawfully owned firearms to be kept unloaded, disassembled, or locked when not located at a business place or being used for lawful recreation activities. Okay, so the only time you can have a gun out, like, available, is in your business or when you're shooting it at the range. Otherwise, no dice. You gotta fucking go around Scooby-Doo style and run away from the killer trying to find your gun. Alright, then it even says, prohibit dangerous and unusual weapons. What the fuck does that mean? One, all weapons are dangerous. But because one looks scary, the other one is banned? Regulate firearms storage to prevent accidents. So that means if all this shit goes through so far that I've read, they want to know exactly where the rifles are, like who owns them, and then they want to regulate how you keep it in your house. So they pretty much know how to get into your guns. Fucking big brain moves right there. And then they fully want to repeal the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. Pretty much, if I shoot you with a Glock, you can sue Glock because I shot you with one. Yeah, think about the fucking logic of that shit, right? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you morons? You want to sue Ford because someone ran you over with an F-150? Are you going to sue a knife company because someone went on a stabbing spree? So I don't know shit about the NRA. Except they the main dude's name is Wayne LaPierre. Fucking dumb name.
A different guy. Had a different guy. He's still one of their major spokesmen. His name is Wayne LaPierre. What kind of a name for a gun nut is Wayne LaPierre? Doesn't this sound a little fruity to you? Hi, I'm Wayne. I'm a gun person. Bang, bang. You know what this prick's name ought to be? Biff Webster. Spud Crowley, a man's name, Chuck Steak.
All right, so what I've learned just from reading the NRA thing is it's basically just like it's just another organization, except it's a group of gun nuts fucking jerking off over guns. All right, so what I've learned, I've read from the thingy is that it concentrates its efforts on another much needed area for education and training. It teaches people how to be responsible with guns. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, like, guns aren't the issue. It's the people using the guns. And then accidental deaths. It's not the gun's fault. It's the person's fault. Whether it be a person fucking around with a gun and it goes off, why is it loaded? Why was your finger on the trigger? Shit like that. Teaching people about gun safety is going to save lives. Name a director of gun violence prevention. Appoint a national director of gun violence prevention who reports directly to the president. All right, so we're going to pay another fucking person to just be in charge of another useless organization. How many fucking 3-letter organizations do we have? And how many of them do we need? The national director of GVP would begin by overseeing a down payment of $250 million in annual funding for research. Okay, so we're going to pay this organization $250 million a year to research gun violence prevention. No. That's so fucking stupid. Why do all of these little groups insist on just milking taxpayer money? Like, okay, so they want $250 million annually. Planned Parenthood gets $530. How many more millions of dollars to these organizations do we need? This plan is so... Why are we letting teenagers dictate policy plans on not only one, guns, but 2, federal funding? I mean, don't listen to me either. I'm just some fucking moron with a camera and a microphone. Number 5. I'm not even halfway through the fucking page, dude. Generate community-based solutions. How about this? I got a community-based solution. When someone drives down the street, right, with a fucking Uzi or something, and they go to fucking do a drive-by, like, right? I just want everyone to come out and just fucking boom this dude's fucking car. All right. Number 5. Generate community-based solutions. Fully fund targeted interventions addressing the intersexual dimension. Why are there so many giant fucking words? I didn't know he could read that well. Didn't he get rejected from Harvard? Including community-based urban violence reduction programs, suicide prevention programs, domestic violence prevention programs, mental and behavioral health service programs, and programs to address police violence in their communities. Wow, dude. They want to fully fund all these organizations. Why? Doesn't that shit already exist? Aren't there groups for this shit? And I love how they want to take guns away from citizens, so the only people that have guns are the police. But the police are bad because they're racist and kill black people. Empower the next generation. Automatically register eligible voters and mail voter registration cards to all Americans when they turn 18. Create the Safety Corps, a peace corps for gun violence prevention. The younger generation are disproportionately affected by gun violence. They should have a say in how their country solves this epidemic. Spoiler alert. they want to fund them to go around and do more safety shit. Yeah, they want to fund teenagers to be a part of the safety corps. Isn't the Peace Corps like voluntary? Don't they do that shit for like the goodness of their heart? All right, we don't have to live like this in fear for our lives and families. The federal government has failed in its responsibility to protect the safety and well-being of the public. Blah, blah, blah. All right, we need ambitious leadership throughout the whole government to stand in opposition to the gun lobby and industry in order to secure a peaceful America for generations to come. Didn't Beto O'Rourke just say we need to vote out people that disagreed with him on the Second Amendment?
I say the whole world must learn of our peaceful ways. By force.
They're basically going to spread peace by force, is what they're saying. They're going to fuck for virginity. Now they get into detail into each one of these things. So it gets even more retarded. If we require a license to drive a car, we should certainly require a license to own a gun. Except driving is a privilege, and you have a right to defend yourself. Speaking of Beto, shouldn't he not be able to drive? Beto can't even get a fucking gun anymore because he did a hit and run. You guys want to keep the standards for gun ownership dangerously high, so it's basically impossible to get a gun. You want to hide it behind so much red tape that most people won't even bother. You know you aren't just gonna get gun owners to give over their guns. That's not gonna happen. But you're gonna get morons to hand over their guns who are like, oh yeah, my fucking grandfather's M1 Garand sitting in a box upstairs is gonna kill people. So they hand that over and it's gonna get destroyed. That's what's gonna happen.
The next day.
Let's fucking get at this nonsense. Hail Satan. As you can tell, I changed my shirt, which means it's a new day, which means I gotta fucking read more of this shit. A multi-step approval process overseen by a law enforcement agency that requires background checks, in-person interviews, personal references, rigorous gun safety training, and a waiting period of 10 days for each gun purchase. That's a lot of shit. That's a lot of fucking shit just to buy a gun. Licenses would be renewed each year upon successful completion of annual refresh requirements in the above areas. In the process, a national registry, they want to know where they all are, of firearm sales would be created. Get the fuck out of the way. To make gun owners responsible for their weapons and hold them accountable when those weapons are used in crime. Our licensing system would also include the ability to disarm individuals who become a danger to themselves or others. Let's start with that last little segment right there. A danger to themselves or others. Based on who? You, David Hogg? They want to make buying a gun so incredibly difficult that people just aren't going to fucking do it. They're just not. Nobody's going to in-person interviews, personal references, you got to fill out a resume to buy a gun. Next point of this fucking retardation. Annual licensing fees for anyone who wants to obtain a national gun and ammunition license. So gun violence has indirect and direct costs of hundreds of billions of dollars each year. In addition, we would impose higher fees on the bulk purchase of firearms and ammunition. I'm just going to buy one bullet at a time. You didn't think about that, did you? One at a time. Only one. One. Singular bullet at a time. Loopholes. They don't address, like, they pass this and they're gonna be like, hoo, it's actually 1,000% tax on ammo, so each bullet costs $1 million. A higher standard for gun ownership, which would start with raising the minimum age for gun possession in 2021. Bullshit. I don't count that as an argument because you're only 19 and then you can't buy a gun. So, fuck you. A limit to 1 firearm purchase per month. Again, why? A prohibition on any and all iron online. Bleh. A requirement to safely store firearms, including implementation national standards for locking devices on guns. So basically, the government wants to tell you how many guns you can have and buy, how much ammo you can have and buy, what kind of guns you can have, and where to store them, and how to lock them up, so they know exactly how to get to them. A requirement to report guns that are lost or stolen to law enforcement within 72 hours. Now, I'm not a moron or anything, but I feel like any responsible gun owner would be like, hey, my tank went missing. Might want to look into that. You know, shit like that. Alright, so they want locking devices, which essentially means they're going to want them fucking disassembled. And I'm going to have to run around the house like fucking Bill Burr said in that one thing.
She's just like, well, I heard you got to keep the bullets in the safe, keep the stock in the garage. And then what? Then what? I run around the house and assemble it? There's some dude's chasing me with an axe? You know, are you even thinking this thing through, sweetheart? Just running around. Where's the scope? It's in the living room. He's in the living room. No, we're getting this thing. I want that fucking thing loaded right on the bedroom wall. Right there. I'll put that thing in my jam sleeves.
Next shit. A federal ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. It's simple. Weapons of war that enable... Shut up, you fucking dimwit. Weapons of war are not sold at Dick's. You fucking nincompoop. Dumbass. Fucking nerd. It's simple. Weapons of war that enable more casualties during mass shootings should not be allowed on our streets. See, I would agree with you there if there was someone out in the street with an RPG, fucking Call of Duty style, and then just fucking runs and points it at the ground and then fucking rocket jumps himself up there. You know? But that shit isn't happening. There's no one with a fucking... This isn't Grand Theft Auto where people are flying around in helicopters and shit. This is essentially what they think America is Grand Theft Auto. They think it's Grand Theft Auto, where everyone has a jet. Now, if you notice throughout this entire thing that there is no ifs, ands, or buts with this shit. There's no tug and pull. This is all a must or need basis. And then they want to do a buyback, which now Beto fucking wants to just... They pretty much and openly come out and say they want to confiscate everything.
I want to be really clear that that's exactly what we're going to do. Americans who own AR-15s, AK-47s, will have to sell them to the government. We're not...
It's funny that they use words like facilitate compliance, which essentially means it's fully mandatory. But, you know, you'll have some people willingly hand them over, and then while your neighbor, you know, not so much, your neighbor may be, you know, a little bit more tinfoil hatty, you know, he might keep his guns. And then, you know, the cops come bust down his fucking doors. To be clear, the implementation of an assault weapons ban should be a full mandatory buyback. You mean confiscation? Because I didn't buy my guns from the government. Did you? And I don't really think the government should be owning any guns. They kill a lot of people each year. You know? Don't worry, the government will protect us. Got you, homie. They just want to remove fucking guns from everyone, so it's essentially just going to be fucking Red Dawn, and then we're going to get... Chris Hemsworth is going to get shot in the head. That's what David Hogg wants. He wants Chris Hemsworth to get shot in the head. I know it. Because you hate Thor. Jackass.
You suck, you jackass.
I'm getting so tired of fucking reading this shit because it's just throw money at the government, throw money at the government, create this agency, create that agency. Bleh. All right, so let's continue. Empowering weakened federal agency. All right, so the new agency will get more money. Yeah, they want to give $250 million to research gun violence. All right, so they want to give $250 million to the fucking CDC, HHS, DOJ, ABC, QRS, TUV. There we go. Educating Americans about risks surrounding guns. Yeah, guns can kill people. Yeah, you press the trigger, right? Pew, 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 and a little bullet comes out, and it fucking can pop through shit. You know, it's a gun, you fucking idiot. Distributing resources to address intersectional dimensions of gun violence. Gun violence in America differs dramatically by geography and demographics. African American, fuck you with that shit. I'm not even gonna address it. They're talking about reducing the gun violence between African American males, and then they want to do something about urban gun violence. That's the same shit, you fucking idiot. Suicide prevention, alright. None of this shit has to do with guns. None of this shit has to do with guns. These police violence, suicide prevention, intimate partner violence, and mental and behavioral health programs have nothing to do with gun violence. So get it the fuck out of this thing. You don't need to be funding this because people got shot. Our next administration must make holistic investments in mental and behavioral health services and programs for all communities that are struggling with the aftermath of gun violence, the daily toll of homicides, suicides, and mass shootings.
Did you ever notice on the TV news, every time some guy with an AK-47 strolls onto a schoolyard and kills 3 or 4 kids and a couple of teachers, the next day, the school is overrun with counselors and psychiatrists and grief counselors and trauma therapists trying to help the children cope. Shit, when I was in school, someone came to our school and killed 3 or 4 of us. We went right on with our arithmetic. 35 classmates minus 4 equals 31.
Our goal, make it easy to access mental and behavioral health services in these communities as it was to access firearms. This shit makes me so fucking mad. Like, none of it. Sorry. Alright, the final component of our urgent federal response is about us, our nation's youth. Well, not me, them. I don't think I'm youth anymore. We are the last generation that has to grow up with gun violence. I thought you were the last generation to grow up with tobacco. Pick one. President John F. Kennedy worked with Congress to establish the Peace Corps. What the fuck has the Peace Corps ever done? Maybe I'm just a moron and they do a lot. This new domestic program would put 10,000 young people per year to work on paid one-year engagements. Paid one-year engagements. How much money do these fuckers want? Our aim is twofold. Give young Americans valuable work experience and live proximity to the complex, comprehensive ways of it's just fucking word diarrhea. And a capacity to accelerate their crucial mission. Anyone 16 to 25 years of age, wait, I can still apply. No matter their level of wealth. Bitch, I guarantee you're not hiring Sarah, the blonde-haired white bitch from the suburbs. I guarantee it. It's all going to be filled with people like you and your buddies that all just fucking circle jerk each other off. To support the above efforts, we must implement automatic voter registration at the moment that young Americans turn 18 years old. Young Americans, you say? Americans, you say? Does that mean you don't want illegals to vote? That's very xenophobic of you. How dare you, David Hogg? I thought you were more inclusive. I'm sorry, what? Additionally, we need federal policies to allow for pre-registration of young people when they turn 16. Does that mean you want them just to register, or do you want 16-year-olds to vote? Because if I have to explain to you why 16-year-olds shouldn't vote, then you need a helmet. Federal judicial nominations. The next generation of federal judges appointed by the president need to be champions of gun violence prevention and a different interpretation of the Second Amendment. So, guess what? If you're on the Supreme Court and you don't agree with these fanatical losers, you're out of a job. Fuck it. Nope. Don't want to hear it. You're out of a job. Get out. Get the fuck out. Why are you still here? Get out. It's funny because the door's over there. Gun industry accountability. The firearms industry needs to be better regulated. This begins with a much more muscular ATF. Just money. Just any government, any three-letter organization, just make it rain on them. Make it rain. Make it rain. All right, and then they want to repeal the they want to repeal the PLCAA, which essentially means that if I shoot you, you can sue Glock. I think I said this already. And then consumer safety standards for firearms. Unlike a variety of other consumer products like cars or toys, firearms are specifically exempt from consumer product. That's a lie. It's a lie. Lie. You're lying. You're lying. Liar. They're lying. They're lying about this because that's not true. In conclusion, David Hogg, you can gargle my grundle.